Do you feel despair? Are you feeling like you're in an existential crisis right now because of the state of the world? Do you feel like we're doomed as a species on this planet? Do you feel that it's too late? Well, I'm Andrea Sadler. I'm a filmmaker, an actress, an artist, a women's circle facilitator, retreat leader, and a transformational coach. And I am now 61 years old. And at age 21, I was in complete despair about the state of the earth. I perceived that the way we were living on the earth and treating each other and the earth and animals and the state of war and everything that was going on in the earth, that if we didn't change our ways, we were going to self-destruct. And I just saw it as this snowball getting bigger and bigger and bigger, rolling down this hill fast. And I had a need to understand what I could do to change the trajectory or be part of a movement to make the world better. In 1995, after spending time in India learning about meditation and what is enlightenment, I had the opportunity, while living in Japan, of making a documentary film called The Sacred Run, The Lotus and the Feather. I was compelled to make this film when I learned that there was going to be a sacred run organized by Indigenous people where we would run 4,000 kilometers across Japan from Hokkaido to Hiroshima and Nagasaki to carry the message that all life is sacred. And I just knew in my intuition, deep in my soul, I knew that I had to make this film. You see, before I went to India, when I was 21, I was trying to figure out how we can change our trajectory. And I read a lot of books about prophecies and indigenous wisdom and sacred texts to learn how to survive. And one of the things that really touched me was the indigenous wisdom. And they said that it's very important to develop your intuition because we would be going through these very intense times. And the times that we are going through are now. Well, between then and now. Because it was as bad then as it is now. And I set out, I first went to India to learn about what is enlightenment, learn how to develop my intuition. And I began practicing meditation and awakening my spiritual being, my spiritual body. But before I went to India, I had the amazing blessing of meeting an Indigenous man on the bus in Vancouver. His name was War Dance, and I'll never forget him because he was one of the most gentle people I've ever met. So I didn't understand why his name was War Dance when he was such a kind, gentle man. But this man invited me to a medicine wheel gathering in Edgewood, British Columbia. And that was a pivotal moment in my life because I went to this gathering for solstice and it completely transformed my consciousness. And I'm so grateful that I experienced that before going to the East because I was fascinated by how do we live as spiritual beings in physical bodies. So I had this, as a filmmaker studying film in university, my subjects were all about balancing spirit and matter. How do we balance spirit and matter while we're walking on this earth? And so I wanted to go to India to learn how to become enlightened and meditate. And I believe that the universe knew that I needed to be very grounded before I went to India. And I was led to this medicine wheel gathering where I learned about Indigenous teaching. It was a 4-day ceremonial gathering with sweat lodges and circles. And I remember while being there, although I had always loved nature and always had a connection to spirit, I was not taught that you can talk to the trees. I was not taught that the earth was our mother. You know, I knew about Mother Goose and Mother Nature, but I wasn't given that information that the earth is our mother. And that all the animals, the winged ones, the crawly ones, the four-legged ones, the ones in the ocean, that they're all our brothers and sisters as well. And I believe that helped, that created a root in me that began to grow. And it gave me a grounding that I needed before I went to India, which was very much about, not so much about the earth. It was very much about spiritual enlightenment and you know, the third eye and developing your intuition and connecting with the divine. It was very much out of body. It wasn't connected to the earth. So I experienced amazing, what would I say, expansive, direct experience of how meditation can awaken your consciousness. And I began to perceive life in a very different way. So I had another major transformation in my life. I wanted to travel the world and make films wherever I went. And I ended up going to Japan, where I taught English and could earn a living as a English teacher. But my heart and soul wanted to make films. And I didn't know what I was going to make a film about. But then I heard about this sacred run coming to Japan, where Indigenous people were going to be running from Hokkaido to Hiroshima and Nagasaki on a 50-day journey across Japan to carry the message that all life is sacred. And I will never forget the moment I saw the article in the newspaper about the sacred run. And I remember just kind of hitting it with my hand and saying, this is it. This is my film. This is what I need to make a film about. Now you see I'm holding a feather with a turtle. And I just want to say that I learned from Indigenous people that about the process of using a talking feather. And the turtle is representative of Turtle Island, which is North America. So the feather helps me speak from my heart. And I use the feather in my women's circles, and I use the feather when I'm doing my film screenings. And that's what I'd like to share with you, is that if you are feeling despair and you are feeling in an existential crisis, I made this film for you. It's going to make me cry, because it took me 9 years to make this film. And while I was making it, people laughed at me and ridiculed me and said I was naive. And even the National Film Board of Canada, which I hoped would fund the film, said to me, Mother Earth and Native issues are passé. Now this was in 1995, the end of 1995, and 1996 is when the National Film Board went digital, because I shot the film on 60 millimeter. And there was a whole rearranging going into digital, and the 1990s was all about making money. There was not a lot of focus on the earth or on peace. It was just, everybody was making money. Well, I knew that I had to make this film, no matter what. And I went through my period that I call my deconstruction, reconstruction, because I lost confidence in myself while I was making the film, because so many people ridiculed me, and nobody wanted to give me the funding to do the post-production. It was very challenging to get the funding to do the post-production. And I spent every last cent I had to make the film. And we shot it on a wing and a prayer. Literally, I think the initial budget was maybe $10,000, which is nothing to shoot a documentary film. On film, each roll of film I had was 5 minutes of footage, and it was $100 a roll. But anyways, I went through, I fell apart while I was making the film in the post-production stage because I lost confidence. And I really thought maybe I just wasn't meant to be on Earth, that I didn't have what it takes to succeed because I didn't relate to what most people were doing to make money. I've never been interested in just making more products that we don't need. I've always been interested in expressing a message and about raising consciousness and about the question of how do we live on the earth as spiritual beings in physical bodies? And how do we make the world a better place? And how do we stay strong when it feels like everything is falling around us and it feels like war is endless? It feels like history is repeating ourselves and we never learn the lessons. How do we keep going? Well, thankfully and painfully, I learned that I had to do my own healing before I could step into my power. Because I lost so much confidence and I felt like I was nothing. And I felt like I didn't belong. But I took a program with Landmark Education that changed my life. It transformed my life. And instead of focusing on my old story, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't know how to do this, that I was naive, that I was stupid, that I didn't belong in the planet, that I shouldn't just be here, I decided to stand in the possibility of who I am. And I love Landmark because it was all about standing in, I stand for peace, I stand for love, I stand for consciousness, I stand for making the world a better place, and I stand for inspiring others. And that's why I made this film, to inspire people, and I made it in a lyrical way so it would touch people in their hearts like a poem, and not just be more information in someone's head. I wanted to inspire someone in their heart and soul to move them to action. And that film took me 9 years to make. And I did show it around, and I traveled all over the place showing that film, and it did show on the Hallmark Channel for a little bit. But it never had the wide distribution that I had dreamt of. And I did not break even financially. I went bankrupt. I was suicidal. But I overcame it. And I had to do the inner journey of strengthening myself to carry this message. Because it's easy to give in to despair. It's easy to go into, oh, everything's horrible and we're doomed. But it takes courage and strength to be someone who stands for something positive. Because people will always try to put you down and say, like they said to me, who do you think you are? Well, I didn't understand that because I was just trying to do something to raise consciousness. I wasn't trying to be anybody special. I just had a message, and I wanted to share the message that I wanted to share the wisdom of the Indigenous people. I wanted to share the wisdom I had gained from traveling in India and doing meditation every day, which I still continue. And I had to fall apart to come back together. And now, all these years later, I've become a transformational coach, and I lead women's circles and retreats and online programs. And the gift in the challenge of making the film was that I realized that if I didn't heal myself, I wouldn't have the strength to finish the film. I had to heal things from my childhood. I discovered during that period that I had been sexually abused as a child, which I didn't realize before that. It all came to the surface in the process of making this film. And I had to heal. And I feel that collectively, so many people have been so wounded, so much intergenerational trauma, that people are afraid to be their authentic selves. And that's why I became a transformational coach, because I see people in their essence. I see their heart, I see their soul. And I also see how fears are limiting them, and how fear keeps us stuck. Feelings of not being enough, because I went through it. Feelings of something's wrong with me, I went through that. Well, I'm telling you, you're God's gift to the world, and the gifts that you came with are meant to be shared. And it's time to stop playing small. And you might need to do some healing work. You might need to do some deep healing work. I've done years of healing, and I'm still healing, and I'm still going through stuff. So I began this channel because it's time for me to share my message and not be afraid anymore of people ridiculing me, not be afraid anymore of persecution. And I invite you to come see my film on Wednesday, August 9th, to commemorate the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The 6th was Hiroshima, and the 9th was Nagasaki. We can never, ever have nuclear war again. So peace starts within us. And by doing the healing work, we become the light bearers. We have to go into the dark to find the light. And that's what I did. And after the film screening, which will be on Zoom, it's from 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We will have a Q&A and a circle share to talk about these things. And I do hope you'll come, and I'll put the link in the description below. And I look forward to sharing more of my tales and insights on this channel. So I'm Andrea Sadler. My spirit name is Dragonfly. And I just want to say, the time is now to rise. Let's rise together. And I'm also offering, if you want to have a free discovery call as a coach, I'm offering an hour free discovery call just to talk about what's in your way of really becoming the authentic you that has a message to share, that has gifts to share, what's holding you back. So blessings to all, and I look forward to creating a community here, and together we will change the world, because we are the ones we've been waiting for.